Hello everybody and welcome back to Independent Art Storytime. We are now drawing to the close of The Box of Delights by John Masefield, and today we'll be starting chapter 11. Quick disclaimer for you all, the next two chapters, 11 and 12, that we'll read over the next 4 days as usual, are considerably longer than the previous one, so do settle yourself in for a slightly longer story for the next few days as we reach the climax of the tale. So yes, what's happened already? Well, Kay's been into the box and he's found the box's owner, Arnold of Toady, and they've returned to the future thanks to the help of Herne the Hunter. Peter, Caroline Louisa, the Punch and Judy man, Cole Hawlings, most of the staff of the Tatchester Cathedral are all still scrabbled. So let's find out if Christmas is going to happen or if Abner Brown gets his wish to get both the box and that closed the cathedral service on Christmas Eve. Chapter 11, Part 1. When he returned to the house, Maria had a little special edition of the Tatchester paper. Yet another clerical outrage. "Kay," she said, "you're losing all the fun. They've tried to scrabble another clergyman who was walking into Tatchester from Tiverton." "Did they get him?" Kay asked. "No, they didn't get him," Maria said, "and here's the account. I'll read it. Church bandits foiled." It now seems undoubtable that the recent outrages at Tatchester are the work of an organised gang, sworn probably by some subversive maniac to prevent the millennial celebrations. We are happy to state that on this occasion the scoundrels were defeated. The Reverend Josiah Stalwart, rector of Tiverton, had undertaken, in answer to the bishop's plea, to be prepared in case of need to help with the services in the cathedral tonight. While proceeding to Tatchester along the Roman road, he was passed by a dark motor car in which there were two men. The car stopped and the two men got out and, coming towards him, asked if he would like a lift. He noticed that one of the men had a white splash upon his leggings and held his right hand behind his back. Not quite liking their looks and being naturally on guard in view of recent events in Tatchester, he declined the lift, and at once the taller man attempted to fling over his head what seemed like a felt bag, while his accomplice tried to deal him a short-arm punch in the ribs. The Reverend Stalwart avoided the felt bag and smote his shorter assailant on the head with the holly cudgel which had been recently presented to him by his admiring colleagues of the Tiverton hockey team, which he'd so often led to victory. Being an exceedingly athletic gentleman, as well as a very good heavyweight boxer, Mr. Stalwart proceeded to deal with the bagman. The ruffians, realising too late that the kind of man with whom they had to deal, exchanged rapid passwords which the Reverend Stalwart thinks may be of assistance to the police. The shorter man said "cool slop" and the taller man said "mizzle." They succeeded in tripping the reverend gentleman by a throw unknown to him and darted into the car, the engine of which had been kept running, and they were at once out of sight, going at great speed. Mr. Stalwart proceeded at once to Tatchester police station and gave a full description of both bandits, which are being broadcast at half-hourly intervals from all stations. Mr. Stalwart is convinced that both criminals will bear marks of their meeting with him for some weeks. We would like to point out that the mystic words uttered by the reprobates are common thieves' slang. Cool slop is what's called back slang. The words look, police, turned backwards. It's a familiar warning in the underworld. The other word, mizzle, of doubtful derivation, means escape, fly, or hurry away. It is hardly credible that armed bandits should thus beset a public highway in broad daylight to kidnap members of a holy calling. We are delighted that in this case a little resolution and British pluck have defeated their purpose. Needless to say, the precautions of the police have been trebled on every road leading to Tatchester. In future, no clergyman will proceed to Tatchester to take Christmas duty save under police protection. We understand that the Tiverton hockey team has sent a long telegram of congratulations to the victorious captain. "You see," Maria said, "they've been diddled this time. The Reverend Josiah must be a bit of a boy to take on two." "I say they'll be furious," Kay said. "I don't know," Maria said. "See here, the Stop Press News. They've got 2 rectors and curates from the parish churches in Tatchester, the Reverend Arthur Pure, the Reverend William Godley, Thomas Holyport and Charles Lecturn, all disappeared and no one knows how. Consternation and anguish in rectory and curacy alike." It was now very nearly 2:30, and Kay went back to his room thinking that they've had a good deal of success, but this setback coming at this time will make Abner furious, and he may proceed to extremes. I must find out what he intends to do. He locked himself into his room and climbed underneath the valance of the dressing table. He turned the knob of the box so he might go swiftly and little to Abner's room at Chester Hills. He was set down in the upper corridor of the Theological College, near a door that stood ajar under the little label, Chief. Kay listened near this door. Nobody seemed to be within. He peeped in, and no one was there. He slipped inside then, and as he wished to examine the room, he resumed his proper shape and closed the door. The door clicked to with a snap. When he found it was fastened, he realised too late that it was a spring lock, and he was now shut in. "That may be awkward," he thought, "but here I am in Abner's own room. I must look about and see what there is to see." By the clock on the little table near the wall, he saw that it was 2:27. "I'm early for the meeting," he thought. "I've got a minute or 2 before they come." Plainly this part of the house was of 16th century, or more than 100 years older than the rest of the building. It was a small irregular room, with a low ceiling and little Elizabethan windows, still glazed with old thick greenish glass in little panes like the bottoms of bottles. The walls were covered with tapestry, much worn and faded, and the mantel was great solid black oak, reaching to the ceiling, all carved with grotesque figures. There was a small alcove at the room's end. It contained a hard little camp bed that had not yet been made. Abner may be fond of food, Kay thought, but he's pretty tough if he sleeps in a bed like that. There were books in the bookshelves, sermons on several occasions, Tillotsson's sermons, Dr. Beattie's sermons, Dr. South's sermons, the Reverend Hart's sermons, the Reverend George Crabb's sermons, sermons for the year, etc., etc. But on all the books the dust was thick. Kay went to the window to see what could be seen from it. The window was shut, and the glass was so thick that he could not see out. To his surprise, when he opened it, the window, which had looked like 4 loopholes divided by stone mullions, all opened in one piece, and he found that it opened onto a charming little lead between 2 pitches of a steep roof. There were ladders up these pitches, and apparently ladders leading down to the other side of them. Here's a way of escape, Kay thought, in case of need. He could judge from the shadows that this window was open to the south-east. After this, Kay spent a minute poking the knobs in the carved mantelpiece, hoping that one of them might work a spring and reveal a secret staircase, and then suddenly he heard voices outside of the door. Abner was saying, "But I left this door ajar." A key pressed into the lock, and Kay just had time to press the knob of his box so he might go small when the door opened and Abner and Joe came in. Kay squeezed into a recess by the fireplace behind the tapestry. "Funny thing about the door," Abner said. "I left it ajar purposely. Somebody's been in here and left the window open." He shut the window and went into the alcove, took a hasty glance around under the bed and behind the tapestries. "I'll inquire about the door and the window," he said. "I wonder who's been in." "Do you know who's been in?" "No, Chief," Joe said. "Of course I don't." "Well, why don't you? You've been in charge here while my wife and I have been in Tatchester. Have you been in?" "No," Joe said. "Of course I haven't." "No, of course about it," Abner snapped. "But, as I've told you many, many times, there's a little trap in store for the man who comes prying in here, and you're most of you too scared to try it. I shall know tonight who's been in. Look out for squalls if I find it's you." "It wasn't me." "Now then, listen to me. Who sent those 2 fools to tackle Josiah Stalwart?" "I did," Joe growled. "And didn't I give strict orders that no scrobbling party was to consist of less than 4 men, 3 to scrobble and 1 to keep the car ready?" "That was before we were short-handed." Did I or did I not give those orders? Suppose you did. Now you know that I did. Now, Chief, Joe said, chuck it. I'd have sent 4 after Stalwart if I'd had 4 to send. I hadn't 4. You never told us Stalwart was a champ. We didn't know. You told me I was to get him scrabbled, and I did what we could. If you had seen 11 and 12 before 17 dress their wounds, you might feel a little sorry for them. Sorry? I'd have made them a little sorry. What did Stalwart do against them 2 against 1? He cracked 12's crown across, a fair treat. He gave 11 an eye like a stained glass window. The mark for a month, the pair of them. And a jolly good job, Abner said. I wish Stalwart had given them each a cauliflower ear. I wish he'd knocked their silly noses west and bangs their ribs blue, and yours too. Now, Chief, Joe said, that's not fair. They've only done their duty, and they were badly hurt doing it. They were hurt disobeying orders. Chief, Joe said, we'll set that aside if you don't mind. I've other things to say to you now. You see, Chief, while we've been in Tatchester, I've been thinking of things, and I've made up my mind. Oh, Abner said. Repeat that, will you? I've made up my mind, Joe said. So you made up your mind, did you? Abner asked. Yes, Chief, I did. I didn't know you had a mind, but I am glad to hear it, and so you've made it up? Yes, Chief, I have. And what did you decide? Abner asked. Tomorrow's Christmas Day. So I hear. What of it? Christmas Day is a rather special day. We don't like keeping all those poor captives away from their homes on Christmas Day. We don't like? Who are we? All the lot of us. It's not Christmas dealing. We've spread a lot of misery taking these poor people just now, fathers from children, husbands from wives, and the poor little choir boys who've been looking forward to hanging up their stockings. It's more than we can bear. Well, Abner said, we want you to return all the captives tonight, by air, with a £10 note apiece, the ones we got at the bank robbery. Then the whole thing would pass off as a rag, and it would tell in our favour, if we ever come to be tried. So, Abner said, we don't like, and we want this and that, and a mind made up all piping hot with mutiny. Were you thinking of getting rid of little Abner and then putting him for command yourself? You, with the made-up mind, would run this brotherhood to some tune? I was thinking nothing of the sort, Chief, Joe said, but you're making a mistake, and so we warn you. Ah, Abner said, a mistake. Well, forewarned is forearmed. Thank you, Joe, and now we'll go down and see the captives. There's one other thing that we've got to speak about, Joe said stubbornly. Got to speak about? Abner said. Then speak it. Proceed. I've been telling them about your magic and that, Joe said. And what we don't see is why you don't use magic to find this box that you've set such store by. You're a cricketer, aren't you, Joe? Abner said, a fast bowler with a terrifying inswerve. I suppose I can plug 'em a bit, Joe said with modest pride. Sometimes, I suppose, even you come up against a bat who hits you all around the compass. That might happen to anyone, Joe said. It's the same with magic, Abner said. You don't believe in magic, I think, but perhaps this may convince you. Watch now. He lifted his hand in a strange way and uttered some foreign words in a loud, clear voice, and instantly the figure of a boy with a bony, unintelligent and unpleasant face appeared through Abner's desk. What do you want me now for? He growled. No pertness, Abner said. Tell the gentleman what Cole Hawlings did with his box. He gave it to somebody to keep for him, the boy said. I told you that before. Learn civility, Abner said. To whom did he give it? I don't know. He put spells around it. I couldn't see the person. Let me go. If you're not careful and civil, I'll peg you into the waterfall, Abner said. Am I nearer to getting the box than I was? Yes, you're very near to it, the boy said. And shall I get it? You'll have it under your hand today. Now I want to go. I've told you everything. Don't try to dictate to me, Abner said. The gentleman would like to ask you something. Ask him anything you want to know, Joe. Joe did not much relish speaking to the boy, but at last he asked, "What is in this box?" "The way into the past. I will not be questioned by you." "Yes, you will," Abner said. "Anything else, Joe?" "Yes," Joe said. "There is. If Cole Hawlings had hold of this box, why couldn't he go into the past by it and escape from Abner here?" "The master there put spells on it. Shut your mouth now and let me go," the boy said angrily. "You shall suffer for this," Abner said. "Is there anything more you wish to ask, Joe?" "Yes," Joe said. "What will win the national?" "Cubadar by 7 lengths. Now I'm going." "Wait, my young insolent friend," Abner said. "You will have a little lesson before you go. Come here." As the boy approached, Abner tapped him on the top of his head with a timetable. The head at once telescoped into the chest, and the legs telescoped into his body. "Off now," Abner said, "and you'll stay plugged under the waterfall for 7 weeks for insolence. Perhaps that may teach you." The boy vanished into the desk, howling loudly from the middle of his chest. "A general tendency to mutiny, it seems," Abner said. "I must take steps, I see. Now come on down to the zoo." Kay was peering from his little cranny to see exactly what was done. Abner touched something, Kay couldn't see what, in the corner over his head, and then he went to the hearthrug and stamped upon it with some force. There came a clicking, clacking noise, and Kay saw the fireplace slide open like a door, revealing a lift with an electric light. "Come on, then," Abner said. The 2 men stepped into the lift. Kay, who was only 2 feet from the door of it, darted into it after them as the fireplace closed to upon them, and Abner pressed a red button in the lift wall, and the lift slowly began to move down. Kay counted and tried to guess how far it went. It went slowly. It passed 2 different possible landings, and when at last it stopped, it did so with a jolt, as though it were at the bottom of the shaft. The chief opened the door. As he and Kay stepped out, Kay followed. He was in a wide, high cavern or gallery in the rock. It stretched out to the right and to left, and it was not less than 14 feet high by 10 broad. It had every sign of being a natural cavern worn by water and smoothed underfoot by man. In the main, it was now a dry cavern. The walls glistened with some wet here and there. In some places they shone as from some quartz crystal in the rock. There was a little pause and silence when they left the lift. Kay heard water dropping, drop by drop, like the tick of a very slow clock. Far, far away, too, water was running over a fall. The 2 men turned to the right, and Kay followed. At every 10 yards or so Abner would stop, turn out the light, and turn on another one to light the way ahead. When they'd gone perhaps 40 yards from the lift, Kay saw what seemed like a range of ships' cabins stretching along the side of the gallery. Abner went to the door of the first of these and pulled aside a shutter, turned on a light to light the cell within, and spoke through the opening. "And how is the dear bishop?" he said. "Christmas sermon getting on well? Well, 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 and will you tell me where the package is?" "I tell you, ruffian," the bishop answered, "that I know nothing of any package. These pleasantries had better cease." "Tell me where the package is," Abner said, "and they shall cease, and starvation shall cease, and you shall have a savoury omelette, and coffee, and rolls, and honey." "What? You won't? Water from the well, then, and darkness to meditate upon it." He switched out the light, fastened the shutter, and moved to another door. "Dean," he said, "still cheerful? Splendid. Can you tell me of the package yet? What, you don't know anything about it? That won't do for me, my Dean. Think again. Keep cheerful." He switched out the light and moved on to another door. "Ah," he said, "the precentor, I think." And here he began a song. "Tell me, shepherd, have you seen my package pass this way?" "A strait-jacket's on its way to you," the precentor said, "and then you'll sing another tune. What do you mean by package and shutting us all up in here? Oh, a proud stomach still, Abner said. A little cold water is very cold Christmas fare, you will find, and not one of you proud prelates will taste more until you tell me where the package is. He went from cell to cell, asking the inmates where the box was. Some said, we don't know what you mean, and others said, you're mad. The police will soon run you down to be sure. Don't be too sure, Abner said, and here, I think, are the canons minor. How that brings back my Latin. Minor, major, minimus. And here are my minor canons going to tell me of the package. A judge and jury will give your package, and a heavy package it will be, and you will carry it for a long time, said the young canon doctrine, who'd once been a famous three-quarter. By this time Abner had reached the end of the cells, and he raised his voice so he could be heard all along the gallery. So you are stubborn, he said. You'll find that I am stubborn, and the rock is stubborn, and not all the police in Europe could find you where you are now. One of you knows where the package is. Tell me, and you shall be home within the day. If not, I can last, and the rock will last, but I don't think you will. He then turned to Joe, who was at his side. By the way, Joe, he said, still in his loud voice, this cell, at the end here, we put the Earl into it. Do you remember? Because he wouldn't pay the ransom. 7 years ago, I think it was. You remember? I remember well, Joe said. A dark, handsome man, the Earl. Very well dressed. That's the man, Abner said, unlocking the cell door. Just step in, will you, and see if his bones are still there. The ransom didn't come, if you recollect, but I expect the rats did. Or am I wrong? Kay saw Joe step into the lighted cell and pretend to rummage in the corners. Do you see any bones still? Abner asked. Just a skull and a rib or two, Joan answered. Oh, and his marriage ring. Quite so, Abner said, locking him into the cell and switching out the light. And now, my dear Joe, with the mind made up, meditate with these holy men on the errors of your ways. Another time you may not be so brave as to tell me that I am making a mistake. Joe, who was a very strong man, leapt at the door and beat upon it. Let me out, you hound, he cried. Let me out, or I'll wring your neck. You mean, and I'll wring your neck, Abner said. I'll keep you there for the present, thank you, because I think that you really might. Sleep well, dear Joe. The floor of that cell is a little uneven, but you won't notice it too much after the first week. Joe continued to beat upon the door and to shout threats and curses, and Abner moved away, whistling a few bars of Schubert's unfinished symphony. Kay, who was horror-struck, moved away after him, and then suddenly from a cell not yet visible, Peter's voice piped up. If you please, Peter said, I think I know where the package is that you want. Ah, Abner said, so, and where is the package? I can't explain it, Peter said, but I could take you there. Oh, could you? Abner said, and give us the slip on the way, no doubt. We are not quite so green. Where is it? Please, I can explain, Peter said. I see you can explain. Where is it? In Sea King's house? In the garden? In the town? At the inn? Where is it? I think it's peeping out of a rabbit burrow somewhere on King Arthur's camp, please, Peter said. Whereabouts on the camp? Abner said. I could take you to it, Peter said, but I can't explain where. Oh, yes, you can, Abner said. You could mark the very place on a 6-inch to the mile map. Where did you see it? If you please, I thought I saw a package just before they scrobbled the Punch and Judy man up on Butler's Down. Ah, Abner said. Well, you thought wrong then. Think again, and think of mushrooms for breakfast. Have you thought of them? Yes, please, sir, Peter said. Well, that's all the breakfast you'll get, Abner said, and that may teach you not to try to deceive me another time. Now snivel. He moved away up the gallery so rapidly that Kay could hardly keep pace. As he came near Joe's cell, Joe cried, Let me out, Abner! Let me Don't, I say!" Finding that his cries had no effect, and that Abner was going past paying no attention, he changed his tone. "I say, old man, a joke's a joke. Don't leave an old pal here in the dark. Not old Joe, Abner." "Yes, old Joe," Abner replied. He'd gone past Joe's cell when something seemed to strike him. "By the way, Joe," he said, "you don't believe in magic, do you?" And instantly out of the air came little faces grinning and wicked. They had pointed ears and pointed teeth, and these faces flitted swiftly through the bars of Joe's cell. They buzzed round Joe's head and spoke, sometimes in squeaky, sometimes in shrill, and sometimes in very musical voices. "You don't believe in magic, do you, Joe?" And Joe beat them as though they were wasps, but they were too quick to be hit. Abner watched the effect of these imps with their words upon Joe's terror-stricken faces. "No, he doesn't believe in magic, Joe doesn't," he said. "However, take your time. You will do presently, Joe," he said. And at that he switched out the light and marched on, turning swiftly up a gallery which Kay had not noticed. Kay followed, running where Abner's footsteps led, and presently a light went up, and Abner had opened the door into a lighted room. Kay slipped into the room behind Abner before the door closed. It was a bare room, carpeted with thick red carpet. Certain strange magical symbols were painted on the walls in red, and in the middle of the room on a pedestal was a bronze head, which Kay had seen before. Kay noticed that the bronze head's eyelids were closed, and the head drooped as though asleep when he entered the room. But as Abner lifted his right hand, the eyelids opened, the head raised itself, and the lips moved, and a voice from within said, "Command me, master." "Tell me of our plans," Abner said. The voice spoke from the head. "Your agents have now captured every clergyman attached to the cathedral, as well as most of the cathedral servants and staff." "Is anything going wrong?" Abner asked. "Yes," the bronze head replied. "You should have begun, as I told you, much later in the day. You have given them time to act against you." "Don't criticize me, slave," Abner said, and the head at once cowered upon the pedestal and began to whimper. "Stop that," Abner said. "Now tell me now, what are they trying to do against me?" "All sorts of things," the head said. "Mainly telephoning and telegraphing, trying to get substitutes." "With what success?" Abner said. "Not much yet," the head said. "It is Christmas. All clergy are busy in their own parishes, but substitutes will be found. There is a body of Friends of the Cathedral. I told you of them, the Tatchester trustees. They are the ones. They will rake up clergy from all sorts of places, you will see." "Will I?" Abner said. "Will they? We'll try that." He raised his right hand in a peculiar manner, and instantly a red-winged figure rose up out of the floor and bowed before him. "Cut all the Tatchester telephone wires and telegraph wires," he said, "and wait. Bring in those Tatchester trustees." "I go, sir," the winged figure said, and disappeared through the ceiling. "That won't see you very far," the brazen head said. "Some of the substitute clergy have already started." Abner raised his right hand again, and instantly another red figure rose from the floor. "Command me, master," it said. "Dislocate all railway traffic for 20 miles round Tatchester. Jam the points." "I go, sir," the figure answered, and disappeared through the ceiling. "And that won't be much use," the bronze head said. "They will come by road." And Abner raised his hand again. A third red figure rose from the floor and asked for orders. "Make every road impassable for 20 miles around Tatchester," he said. "But stay, that won't be enough. We must make the air impassable too. Stay here one moment." He lifted his left hand in a strange way, and instantly an old crone was thrust through the floor by little red hands towards him. She looked so old that she might have been 1,000 years old or more. Her nose and chin almost met, and the colour of her face was that of old wood. She seemed terrified of Abner. "What do you want with me, master?" she said. I want a storm out of the north and the east, Abner said, with snow. I can't give it. I can't give it, the old woman said. You ask too much. I can only sell a storm for a great sum, a bag of amethysts. Give me a storm from the north and the east, Abner said, or I will torment you in a way that you'll remember. No, give me at least half a bag of amethysts, the old woman said, for I need them for the cordial I am making. I will give you a quarter bag, Abner said. Now let me have the storm. He produced from his pocket a little canvas bag which did contain amethysts. Kay saw the stones as he emptied them out. A very meagre quarter of the bag was handed to the old woman, who produced in turn from her pocket a little leather bag tied with 3 strings at the mouth. Don't open more than 2 of those strings, the old woman said warningly, or you may be sorry. Don't tell me how I am to proceed, Abner said. Away with her. And at once the little red hands plucked the old woman away. Servant here, Abner cried to the red figure, away with this to Tatchester. Open 2 strings from the mouth of this bag and fill the roads and the air with snow, so that neither cars nor aeroplanes shall come near Tatchester. Let any clergyman who tries to get there be buried 6 feet in snow and not found until the spring. He cannot do that, the brazen head said. He cannot take life. Abner turned to the brazen head. You have interrupted me. You have criticised me, he said. All this establishment seems to have given over to mutiny. I will have you learn respect. You shall be upside down for a while. I implore you, Master, not, the head said, whimpering. I say yes, Abner said, and he plucked the head from its pedestal and jammed it down violently upon its upside down. It whimpered and wailed in that position. Shut up, Abner said. Listen to me and tell me the truth. Am I to have that box today? He said. You will have it under your hand, the head said. To do what I like with? To toss and to tumble, and it will be your plaything. Then I can open the sluices when I choose, he asked. Whenever you choose. Ha, Abner said, and who will bring me the box? It will come under your hand, the head said. Kay was by this time trembling lest the head should say where the box was at the moment. It was at this instant the poor upside-down eyes caught sight of the tiny figure of Kay near the door. The eyes showed astonishment, and then Kay felt that they showed excitement. Oh, he'll betray me now, Kay thought, so as to be turned the right side up again. And then he saw that the head was rebelling against Abner for being turned upside down, and one of the eyes winked at Kay to reassure him. What are you rolling your eyes for? Abner asked. You'd roll your eyes if you were upside down, the head said. Who will bring me the box? Abner repeated. The spells won't let me say. And how soon will it be here? It's on its way to you now. It's near. It is very near. Right, Abner said. Now mend your manners there. Oh dear, Kay thought. He's to have the box after all. And what will happen to me when he gets it? And what will happen to all the captives? And what did he mean by opening the sluices? Did he mean he's going to let water into the caves? And that's where we'll finish for today. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 o'clock, for the next instalment of the Box of Delights. We'll see you then.